Dinghai Fusheng Records. Chapter 83. Veil of Light. On the heights of Mount Longmen, Feng Qianjun faced down Princess King He, breathing heavily. In the end, you aren't her, Feng Qianjun said coldly. I know you aren't, so who are you really? Princess King He closed her eyes, murmuring, I have all of her memories from when she was living. You tell me, who would I be? Qianjun. Feng Qianjun roared angrily, you are keeping the dead from their eternal slumber. You're able to do such a conscienceless thing, get out of her body right now. Feng Qianjun pulled out the Sen Loyal blades with both his hands, the light glinting off them as he shot towards her. Princess King He leapt into the air as she murmured, Qianjun, come, don't you want your brother to live well? Why are you still so stubborn in denying the truth? In these past few days, I know that you've always been regretting. With an angry roar, Feng Qianjun's Sen Loyal blades sucked away the resentment in the drought fiend camp below, and suddenly all of the plants in the area shriveled and withered as a huge vine appeared in the mountains. In an instant, it flew up into the air, curling around Princess King He and dragging her downwards. Xiao Shan backed up non-stop, and he bent over as that rotten wolf opened its mouth, a garbled sound issuing from its throat. Right after, Xiao Shan felt his internal organs shifting queasily like waves on a stormy sea, as if a giant hook had latched onto his hunpo, forcefully tugging his consciousness out from within his body. Xiao Shan let out a pained shout, and his two hands tightly clutching the wolf's claws trembled ceaselessly, he could not escape. Then, in his chest, a little bit of the light of the heart lamp shone through. Though the light was weak, it helped block the ability of the grey wolf to summon souls, forcefully shoving his hunpo right back into his body. From afar, in the midst of the open-air tent came the sound of a whistle, which echoed across the vast plains. Xiao Shan gasped for breath as he drew his bow and knocked an arrow to the string, but the grey wolf roared indignantly, pouncing towards him. It bit down on his shoulder and leapt with him off the cliff. Xiao Shan's body was in midair, and the pounce forced him to lean backwards, but he was still holding tightly onto that bow and an arrow shot towards the horizon. The second whistling arrow shrieked as it flew, piercing through the air as it did so. In Feng Qianjun's hands, Sen Luo Wangziang grew black brambles that dragged Princess King He back to the summit of the mountain. After those two whistling arrows sounded, Princess King He let out a biting laugh, and black resentment exploded from her body, all of it entering Feng Qianjun's Sen Loyal blades. Come, don't struggle anymore. Princess King He shook off the vines and opened her two arms, flying towards Feng Qianjun. It was then that Feng Qianjun discarded his blades, drawing his bow and knocking an arrow to the string as he shouted, Go to your eternal rest ba. But Princess King He's expression held a little bit of misery, and Feng Qianjun gritted his teeth, tears welling up in his eyes, as with a pained roar, he unconsciously turned aside his bow. With an ear-piercing shriek, a whistling arrow pierced through Princess King He's midriff, shooting clear through her body, black blood splattering out behind as it came out her backside, flying at a slant into the air. You originally, still had a lot of opportunities. Princess King He leapt towards Feng Qianjun, dragging him towards the steep precipice, and Feng Qianjun struggled to push aside Princess King He, only for her to catch his lips in a kiss. After the third shriek sounded, though it was noon, dark clouds roiled, and a huge bang echoed through the mountains as the earth shook. Hundreds of thousands of cans of dynamite were tossed into the drought fiend main camp, and the blazing fire immediately swallowed the entirety of Mount Longmen. By the Yug, those majestic mountains that had existed since the heavens were separated from the earth were lit up by the blaze, and the bright fire spread out, turning into a huge fiery dragon some 10 li long that danced between the heavens and the earth. Within the discussion tent, just as Xiang Shu shouted out that cry of attack, King Onobayashi, Shi Moken, and Xiang Shu all drew their bows and nocked arrows, and 3 arrows shot directly towards Fujian, but Wang Zi waved the folding fan in his hand, and resentment rose within the tent, shooting into the heavens. But a whistle pierced through the sky, and soon after the second and the third resounded, before Mount Longmen burst into flame. In that gust of dark wind that gusted over the earth, with Chen Xing's earth-shaking cry, light burst forth and illuminated the land. It was as if two tornadoes had collided, and the dark wind that Wang Zi had summoned was dissipated. Seems like your arrangements weren't as complete as you thought. Chen Xing faced down Wang Zi as he deactivated the heart lamp. Want to see if it's your thousands of years of accumulated wisdom that is more powerful, or the luck that I Upiter has given me? Wang Zi let out a cold chuckle. Catch Fujian! Xiang Shu shouted. From all around, the troops had already been alerted, and when those three whistles sounded and Longmen Gorge began to burn, Murongchang's silver cavalry swept in like a tidal wave onto the plains. Right afterwards, the Qi Le Chuan war horses and the Dongying riders all charged in. Murongchang pulled out his long sword in the midst of that black energy, and with an angry roar, he charged in. Suddenly, fresh blood splattered in all directions, and Fujian caught Murongchang's blow with a single hand. Every step of your martial arts was taught to you by Zhen, Fujian said darkly. You really think that Zhen wouldn't know of your petty schemes? Murongchang. In that brief moment, Fujian had already landed a punch on Murongchang's chest, and Murongchang flew into the air, spitting out a mouthful of blood, flying backwards like a kite with a broken string. Let's go, Your Majesty, Wang Zi said unconcernedly as he landed by Fujian's side. Fujian turned, looking at Wang Zi with rage as he roared, You, explain this to Zhen clearly. Wang Zi lifted a hand, and resentment that blanketed the land exploded outwards, instantly catching Fujian in its grasp. Since you've drunk the devil god's blood, Wang Zi said, then it's no longer up to you now. Fujian's voice suddenly cut off, and his eyes immediately grew blood red. His heart was already filled with rage from Murongchang's betrayal, and he instantly lost all reason. Yuan Xin! Wang Zi cried, gather up the imperial guards, and have them assemble in front of the yuk. But Fujian's imperial guards were in great disarray, as if they were having an internal struggle. Oh damn, Wang Zi suddenly remembered someone that he had forgotten. Tuabayan. From the heights of the Longmen Gorge, Feng Qianjun plummeted headfirst into the water, and Princess Qinghe had already disappeared off to who knows where. In the distance, there was an earth-shaking roar as the hooves of the thousands of war horses in the large army thudded against the ground like war drums. As the Dongying, Qi Le Covenant, and Pingyang cavalry military flags gathered up in one spot from the three different directions they came in, they began to encircle Fujian's imperial guards. And the imperial guards that were originally under Yuan Xin's command had further split into two factions. Almost 10,000 were being led by Tuabayan, and the Luoyang troops waiting outside had no way to enter that chaotic battle. For a while, the armies on the plains, along with Tuabayan's men, began to slaughter Yuan Xin and his men, and in a split second, Yuan Xin's determination collapsed, and he immediately trampled over the Luoyang troops gathered around the outside as he escaped towards the foot of Mount Longmen. He's escaping! Chen Xing shouted. No rush, Xiang Shu said easily. We'll be able to capture him, get on the horse. The two of them mounted the horse, and Xiang Shu pressed his fingers to his lips and let out a whistle. Answering whistles, as if they came from his own lips, resounded across the troops. The four armies gathered into formation, and Xiang Shu pulled out the great sword strapped to his back and lifted it. The heart lamp, Xiang Shu said. On the darkened plains covered by black clouds, Chen Xing ignited the heart lamp, and the Akala blade in Xiang Shu's hand began to shine. All divisions of the human realm, all divisions from the divine land, listen to my command. Xiang Shu said, this battle to exterminate the devil is a matter of life and death. We are not afraid of death. Follow me to charge. In that instant, an ocean of roars swelled from the throats of all of the four armies, and the 50,000 soldiers gathered up under Xiang Shu's command, beginning to charge towards the remainder of Fujian's imperial guards. Within that mad rush of thousands of horses, Chen Xing could no longer react, he could only follow behind Xiang Shu as they galloped forward, and as he watched that back, he only felt that although Xiang Shu was no longer the master of Siwai and had no claim to any citizens or territory, he was still the king of the northern lands. "Thank you, Heart Lamp," Chen Xing thought in his heart, "for letting me find him." Wang Zi and Fujian hastily retreated to the foot of Mount Longmen, while Yuan Xin and his subordinates tossed away their armor as they headed in that direction, shouting, "Retreat quickly! Kuashi! Retreat quickly! Shulukong's counterattacking!" Wang Zi said coldly, "Trash, get out of the way! Yuan Xin, Tuabayan's also betrayed us. There's nowhere left to retreat to." The imperial guards could retreat no further. Behind them was the blazing Mount Longmen, and if they got any closer, they would be burnt to ash by the flames. At this time, the fire reached upwards towards the heavens, everything else turning pitch black, but the large army that Xiang Shu led kept charging forward, forcing Fujian and his men towards the yuk blazing with flame. Some of the soldiers began to leap into the river to escape with their lives. Wang Meng had also managed to escape, returning to Wang Zi's side. When Wang Zi saw that the number of enemy troops on the plains grew greater in number and the encirclement was closing in, he finally lifted up his hand. A ray of resentment shot towards the sky, and with a loud boom, the trees that had been ignited on the mountain collapsed. Right after, the drought fiends that were on fire rushed out of the gorge, sweeping across the entire plains. In the shadow of the yuk, Feng Qianjun finally found Xiao Shan. Xiao Shan's shoulder had been bitten through by the wolf's teeth, and the wounds bled resentment as he struggled out of the water. "Are you all right?" Feng Qianjun asked anxiously. Xiao Shan managed to nod his head, and he pointed towards the distance as he said, I saw. Let's go first and talk later." Feng Qianjun said. The mountains beginning to burn. All around them were blazing flames as Feng Qianjun and Xiao Shan clambered onto the riverbank of the Huai River, only to see burning drought fiends running around everywhere. With this blaze, more than half of the 300,000 strong drought fiends had turned into charred ash. The rest of them swarmed in all directions, dragging along their broken limbs and flesh that had been cooked through, only to encounter Xiang Shu's iron cavalry, and with only a few rounds of clashing, were trampled under their feet. On the plains, King Onobayashi watched this scene with something akin to horror. He finally realized that had this battle not occurred, not long after Fujian accomplished his goal of conquering the south, his own country would be facing such danger. "It's up to you guys." Xiang Shu, with Chen Xing in tow, shouted towards Shi Mokan, "We're going to capture Wang Zi." Chen Xing said, "Where are Xiao Shan and Feng Qianjun?" Xiang Shu, "We can't wait for them anymore." The plan so far could narrowly count as a success. Wang Zi's drought fiends had already almost all been dealt with, and what was left was the most important moment. Chen Xing anxiously looked into the distance. He saw Wang Meng back up a little, less than 100 zhang from the yuk, as he opened his palm, shaking out a tattered pennant. Resentment coiled around the pennant, and it billowed towards them. As soon as Chen Xing saw that pennant, he suddenly thought of the fact that the enemy actually had artifacts hidden away at the very bottom of the chest that they could use, and he immediately cried, "Retreat! Don't ask why! Quick!" Xiang Shu galloped away at full speed, lifting up the Akala blade horizontally to one side as he made a hand gesture. The four armies immediately turned around and changed formations, retreating in all directions, and at that point Wang Zi waved that pennant, and with a huge boom, a wave of formless air swept across the battlefield. The White Tiger Pennant. It's an artifact. Xian, who had been following along behind, instantly recognized this artifact, which was one of the two the imperial family had. Legend had it that this was a treasure left behind from the time of the founding of the Han dynasty, and it symbolized the right of the emperor to start and stop troops from attacking. All the armies of the world, upon seeing the White Tiger Pennant, would fight, and upon seeing the Zuyu Pennant, they would all cease. Many years ago, the two pennants truly did have powerful mana within them, until the silence of all magic. Mortals didn't know the reason why, and they just believed that they were the symbols of an emperor's power. Chen Xing had once seen them in Fujian's study, but he had never expected Wang Zi to actually bring out the white tiger pennant itself. Wang Zi! Xian yelled angrily. You guys are using the artifacts of the Jin people, do you have any shame? Thankfully, Xiang Shu had issued a speedy order to retreat, and all of the cavalry had already run outside of the area of effect of the artifact, otherwise, they would inevitably turn on each other due to the power of the white tiger pennant. However, in a 1 li radius around Wang Zi, the rest of the imperial troops had already fallen under the influence of the pennant, and each of them were caught in the throes of bloodthirst as they slaughtered, unheeding of gathering up in squads as they individually rushed towards the outer circle. Who doesn't have a few artifacts? Chen Xing jeered. In the next instant, the zhang drum sounded, do, before it dudued twice, and the drought fiends that had been cooked through and trampled over before turning into white bone snow rose up, charging towards the imperial guards, heading forwards in a surprise attack. The scene was like purgatory on earth. The fire was engulfing mountains and forests, and within a 10 li radius, the earth was completely scorched. However, on this burnt land, there were still untold numbers of skeletons rushing in from all sides. Don't use it. Xiang Shu said, angry. Save it for an important battle. You retreat a bit. Xiang Shu shouted, don't go near Wang Zi. Find a way to retrieve that magical artifact, Chen Xing panted for breath as he talked. No time. Xiang Shu was irritated to the extreme and frowned. Where the hell did Xiao Shan and Feng Yunjun go? Feng Yunjun, dripping wet, dragged Xiao Shan out and crawled to the riverside before shooting out the Fouth signal arrow towards the sky. At last, the soldiers in ambush were mobilized, the 60,000 backup troops recruited with gold and silver by the Feng family came out of their hiding places on two sides of Yuk and launched the final clash against Fujian and Wang Zi's army. Although Fujian had already gone to the front line himself and had been killing people all over the place, his own side was also in disarray. While it was true that the White Tiger Pennant was mobilizing his men in his place and had turned them fierce and fearless of death as they massacred people everywhere, it had also turned his men crazy to the point that they were no longer listening to their commander-in-chief's commands. Upon seeing the battlefield, Wang Zi subconsciously moved half a step back. Lure them over, said Wang Zi. Do not let His Majesty go into the battle. A moment later, Xiao Shan and Feng Yunjun simultaneously rushed out of the water. Feng Yunjun made a strike targeting Wang Meng's hand while Xiao Shan pounced at Wang Zi in a rage. I'm going to kill you. Xiao Shan had never been angrier all his life. Wang Zi immediately pulled back and abandoned Wang Meng without a second look. Wang Meng's arm holding the White Tiger Pennant was immediately chopped off by Feng Yunjun. Xiang Shu stopped his horse outside the encirclement and saw the imperial army led by Yuan Xin break apart once again. Panting, Tuabayan led the troops and came over to meet up with them. What do we do now? Continue fighting. Xiang Shu said, wait. I saw Feng Yunjun. Grabbing a horse, Feng Yunjun rushed back to the battle with Xiao Shan while revealing the White Tiger Pennant as he shouted, I've got it back. How do we use it? No, don't. Chen Xing stopped him at once. Don't use it by all means. Don't. Xiang Shu decisively said, gather the whole army. Charge. Eventually, Fujian couldn't ward off the opposition anymore and followed Wang Zi to flee deeper inside the Yuk region. He followed along the river and passed through the burning entrance of the Longmen Gorge. Wang Zi turned around. Airbound and flying towards the center of Yuk region, from up above, he watched the assault charge in again, and each time, the number of soldiers on his side dwindled. Shimoken and King Onobayashi separated into two wings, each going around one side of Longmen Mountains to outflank them. Xiang Shu, holding his broadsword and bringing along Chen Xing, charged deeper into Yuk. Wang Zi murmured, in this case, let's see whether or not it truly can be opened. Take his fan. Chen Xing said, I'm certain that fan is very important to him. You do it. Xiang Shu got angry. Don't just order me around. He's in midair right now, how am I supposed to snatch it? As he said that, Wang Zi gathered up all resentment before waving his folding fan in the air. It turned into a black meteor with a size comparable to a mountain and noisily hurtled towards the whole land. He actually wanted to use the formidable impact of meteor collisions to wipe out all lives on Earth. It's too late. Chen Xing said. Xiang Shu had no choice but to ready the Akala blade. Bright light burst off from his body. The immovable Wisdom King, Akalantha, descended. At that very moment, every single person on the battlefield raised their head to look at this scene. They all saw Xiang Shu take a leap up from the warhorse on gallop. He tilted his body to one side, a gold-plated white robe appearing all over his body. The Akala blade in his hands transformed into 6 kinds of weapons, leaving trails of golden flame as he launched towards the sky and directly at Wang Zi. Chen Xing felt a burst of pain in his heart. I can hold on, I have to hold on. Chen Xing said to himself. But, all of the sudden, Wang Zi closed his folding fan, and the black meteor disappeared in an instant. Wang Zi made such an unexpected move while Xiang Shu was gliding. At full speed, he passed through the dense resentment and raised the Akala, its 9 runes flaring up at the same time. Longmen's flaming uke seemed to have reacted to it, as on both cliffs where the western and eastern caves were located, bright rings of light simultaneously lit up. In the huge gate relative to the 2 peaks, a strange dragon-shaped rune flashed a dazzling golden light. All of the sudden, a golden veil of light appeared in the middle of the uke, as if a magical gate had been opened. What is that? Chen Xing was flabbergasted. An unexpected event arose all of the sudden. Wang Zi had already withdrawn himself inside that gate, and immediately afterwards, Xiang Shu, who had yet to stop his momentum, also went flying inside the gate. Chen Xing's sight began to darken. At the moment Xiang Shu rushed into that veil of light, the heart lamp's connection between the two was suddenly cut off. Soon afterwards, the veil of light dimmed at a speed visible to the naked eye before flashing once and completely disappeared. But after a brief moment of disappearance, Xiang Shu and Wang Zi both reappeared again. It was as if they were simply passing through a wall. The heart lamp's power was withdrawn. The martial god's robe on Xiang Shu's body had completely disappeared while the Akala blade returned to ordinary iron as it fell from the sky. Wang Zi fell to the ground with a loud bang, black chi wrapping his body. Xiang Shu rolled over in the air and landed on the ground. The 2 men had reached the other side of Uke. Chen Xing galloped and chased after them, shouting, Xiang Shu! Are you all right? Xiang Shu straightened his body and with his back to Chen Xing, he raised his hand, showing Wang Zi's folding fan in his hand. Great! Chen Xing said. There was no trace of Fujian, and Wang Meng was also nowhere to be found. The remaining Wang Zi crawled out of the river with much difficulty and suddenly let out a strange laugh. I knew it, Wang Zi said in a low voice. You're even more stupid than I thought, Shulukong. You will regret this. What did you know? Chen Xing was surprised. What happened just now? Chen Xing dismounted and asked Xiang Shu, his tone anxious. When the 2 people's gazes met, Xiang Shu looked slightly absent-minded as he avoided Chen Xing's gaze. Nothing, Xiang Shu said in a voice only he could hear. When we return, I'll explain. Something must have happened during that brief moment of them passing through the veil of light, but now wasn't the time to ask about it. Feng Yunjun, Xiao Shan, and Xian chased after him and surrounded Wang Zi from all directions. Sure enough, this husk also won't do. Wang Zi slowly said. Xiang Shu, consider my words carefully. What did he say? Chen Xing frowned, feeling a trace of danger. Xiang Shu, however, just picked up the Akala blade and pointed it at Wang Zi. I won't consider the words of any dead person, Xiang Shu said. Do it. Xiang Shu, Feng Yunjun, and Xiao Shan pounced on Wang Zi all at once. Wang Zi kept laughing in a strange way and shouted, "I won't keep you guys company any longer. There is still some good stuff waiting for you." Chen Xing was waiting for this very moment. He spread both of his hands to activate the yin-yang mirror. Wang Zi's laughter suddenly came to a stop. The yin-yang mirror immediately hovered over everyone's head and burst forth a vortex, and with a rumble, it sucked him in. "You!" Wang Zi was the first to disappear. Soon afterwards, Chen Xing shouted, "It's all yours. Xie. Protect the mirror." As the four men entered the mirror, Xie trotted forward, rushing in to catch the falling yin-yang mirror. End chapter. Dinghai Fusheng Records. Chapter 84. Turning on the Wielder. Chang'an of the Mirror World. After the last great battle, the Mirror World had already been reduced to fragments, the houses had collapsed in on themselves, and the palace had been scorched by the flames. The entire realm looked like a giant set of ruins. Chen Xing, holding the mirror within the mirror realm, had reversed the roles, and this time he had become the only exit of the realm. In front of Taishu Palace, Xiangshu, Feng Tian and Xiao Shan honed in on the other three positions. Xiangshu moved his body in front of Chen Xing to shield him as he said darkly, "Exchanging blows here means that your Hunpo won't be able to escape." Wang Zi finally realized, the goal of this group of exorcists was to completely get rid of him today. "It has been long, very long, since I've started to wish for the day I would fully die," Wang Zi said lightly. "How unfortunate that the heavens never listen to the wishes of humans. Today, if you all can cause me to truly die here, then it can still be regarded as fulfilling one of my wishes." Chen Xing asked, "That door in Yug, what exactly is in it?" Wang Zi smiled. "There will come a day where you will know. I just never expected that, with just that single lamp in your heart, you would be able to accomplish so many things. Indeed, without me realizing it, you have forced me into such a dead end. For the yin-yang mirror that I snatched from Zhongliu's grasp to be used in such a fashion, you all really are very smart." Xiangshu, Chen Xing suddenly found that there was something off about him. Xiangshu shook his head, before with a single flick of the Akala blade, he settled into a battle stance, his eyes fixed intently on Wang Zi's movements. That fan had already been taken away by them, and the drought fiend troops were gone. The four armies had surrounded their lair, and very soon now, they'd be able to capture the escaping Fujian and Yuan Xin, so now Wang Zi really had no roads left to take. "Wang Zi," Chen Xing said, "dissipate the last of your resentment, and let your Hun return to the divine vein. It's exactly because the heavens want to send you off that they've arranged for us to arrive on this earth. This is the true will of heaven." "It's not over yet," Wang Zi murmured. "Far from over. Come, I do want to see how long you can last, igniting your own Hunpo like this. I imagine that I won't be the first to collapse. What's happening outside right now? I am very curious." Just as he finished speaking, Wang Zi once again rose up into the air. Resentment exploded outwards from him, enveloping the entirety of the city of Chang'an like a windstorm, gathering up all of the fallen planks, broken tiles and bricks, turning into a mighty torrent that swept down upon their heads. The extent of that resentment was even more powerful than what Chen Xing had imagined, and as the windstorm rose, the illusionary Chang'an seemed like it was undergoing the apocalypse. Xiangshu shouted, "Keep that lamp safe." Chen Xing gathered his hands to his chest, igniting the heart lamp right in front of him. Within the dark, wild storm of resentment, that single dot of the heart lamp shone unceasingly, and no matter how great the waves of resentment were, they couldn't shake that light. Feng Tian and Xiao Shan pulled out their weapons, both of them rushing forwards as they roared in unison. "Feng Tian, for Qing'er, I'm going to make sure you." His blade slashed down. Xiangshu lifted the Akala blade horizontally, gathering light from the heart lamp. But he didn't dare to forcefully take Chen Xing's energy, only gathering enough for the sword to begin shining with a faint light. As soon as Wang Zi landed, he would rush up with his sword in tow. First is the physical body. Xiang Shu called. Wang Zi's physical body was instantly pierced through, turning into a messy lump of flesh and blood, before his black hunpo gathered up, letting out an ear-piercing noise as he jeered, "So now what? What else can you all do to me? Back up!" Chen Xing shouted. Feng Yunjun and Xiao Shan immediately backed away, and Xiang Shu retreated behind Chen Xing. Chen Xing pushed the heart lamp with both his hands, and its light exploded out, revolving as it rushed towards Wang Zi. Wang Zi floated in the air, laughing strangely and ferociously, before gathering up the resentment and shoving it towards Chen Xing. The light in Chen Xing's hands glowed brightly, turning into a pillar of light, and the resentment in Wang Zi's hands burned with a dark fire as it condensed into a pillar of energy. The two beams of energy crossed in midair, and as the waves of resentment loomed menacingly, as soon as they touched the light of the heart lamp, they suppressed it, pushing the point of intersection towards Chen Xing. The power of a not yet 20-year-old exorcist's hunpo, Wang Zi began to smile, attempting to defeat my 3,000 years of cultivation. Xiang Shu stood behind Chen Xing, arms wrapped around his shoulders, hugging him lightly from behind. His large hands made the yin-yang seal as they wrapped around the outside of Chen Xing's, which were still giving off the light of the heart lamp. The four hands cast magic at the same time, and the heart lamp's glow rose swiftly, radiating light for thousands of zhang in front of Chen Xing's body. In that instant, Chen Xing felt that that patch of bright light on this earth was being enveloped by an expansive, ancient golden flame, and he and Xiang Shu standing behind him seemed to become connected in some mysterious way. Their hunpo turned into two rings of light that linked together, beginning to revolve as they let out waves of resonance. The light instantly blocked the resentment, equal in power to Wang Zi's black fire, and they came to a stalemate in midair. Wang Zi exclaimed, "You! Shulakong!" Xiang Shu didn't speak. He merely opened his eyes, lifting his gaze towards Wang Zi standing up high. His eyebrows, hair, and entire body was wrapped in a glimmering, shining golden flame. Chen Xing's body slowly turned into a glowing silhouette as he was held in Xiang Shu's embrace. "Attack," Xiang Shu said in a deep voice. "Protect that dot of light in your heart." Wang Zi suddenly realized that things weren't good, but in the next instant, Feng Yunjun turned over the blades in his hand, concentrating hard. Xiao Shan raised one claw, and he and Feng Yunjun began to suck up the resentment at the same time. Wang Zi let out an angry roar as the resentment covering him was instantly sucked away, flowing in an endless stream into Senluo Wangxiang and Kangsheng Yuli. As his resentment weakened, the heart lamp's light rushed in to fill the crevices, holding out against the black flames, pushing rapidly towards where Wang Zi was. Wang Zi struggled, You all! Feng Yunjun and Xiao Shan's expressions were twisted in great pain, their entire bodies wrapped in black fire. "Save me!" Wang Zi summoned all of his strength, scrawling out a seal made of black flame as he roared painfully, "Fujian, save me!" The plains on the northern riverbank of the Yuk. Fujian's rage was at its peak as Tuabayan led the rest of the imperial guards in pursuit to the riverbank. The rest of the involved parties were aware that this was a delicate situation, and they backed up to almost a li away, respecting Xiang Shu's order that the Qin people should take care of their own family matters. Tuabayan coughed a few times, coughing up a little bit of blood. Yuan Xian's entire head was covered with blood, wretched beyond belief. Fujian held his sword at his side, facing Tuabayan. Murongchang also rushed to the scene, breaking through the outer battle formation, but he couldn't make it in. Originally, perhaps he would have been able to kill Fujian amidst the chaos, but Xiang Shu had anticipated him doing so early on, so he had Tuabayan's faction of the Imperial Guards arrive on time. With this, Murongchang had no way to strike the killing blow. "Yanner, did you come here to kill me, or to save me?" Fujian asked darkly. "You've also betrayed Zhen." Tuabayan panted. "Tuabayan has never dared to forget your Majesty's kindness, and the Imperial Guards would never dare to betray your Majesty." Our actions today are solely to protect the great Qin. The evil Wang Zi has brought disaster upon my great Qin and bewitched your majesty. Imperial guards, hear my orders. Protect his majesty at all costs. Fools! Fu Jian thundered suddenly. Do you know what you all have destroyed? Behind Fu Jian and Yuan Xin were the last almost 100 imperial guards, and in front of them were the 10,000 troops led by Tuabayan. At this moment, Xian stepped out of the ranks and spoke. Your Majesty, come with us ba. With the reputation of our martial god Shulakong, we can guarantee that you won't be treated discourteously. In a bit, when Wang Zi is disposed of, we will release you. Yuan Xin teetered. Seeing that Fu Jian was unable to escape this elaborate, encompassing trap, as soon as they were defeated and taken prisoner, Fu Jian was bound to become the ruler of a fallen country and remembered as a hero for the ages. His subordinates, however, would be thrown to the winds, and it all depended on if they laid down their arms and surrendered. But Tuabayan said earnestly, Men of the Imperial Guard, will you continue to cruelly slaughter each other? The members of the Imperial Guard were unhappy with Yuan Xin to begin with, and today, after personally witnessing Wang Zi's evil magic and the battle with the drought fiends, they understood that the one who had destroyed Chang'an back then was precisely that guy. Slowly, the thought of leaving sprouted in their hearts, and they all backed up, wanting to return to Tuabayan's side. In the end, Tuabayan bowed towards Fu Jian, saying, Your Majesty, come with us ba. But just then, Fu Jian let out a loud bellow of laughter. You really think that Zhen has no way to deal with you all? Fu Jian said savagely. And right after, a gust of monstrous resentment billowed from the copse of trees behind him, and a huge wolf rushed out. Kill these traitors for Zhen! Fu Jian roared angrily, leaping onto the back of the huge wolf. But that huge wolf didn't listen to Fu Jian's orders at all. Its eyes locked onto Xian, and in an instant, Xian had a flash of realization, the huge wolf's goal was to obtain the yin-yang mirror. Before he could dodge, the rotten wolf moved, swift as lightning, in front of Xian. Behind him, Murongchang shouted, Be careful! Right after, Murongchang raced forward, using his metal armor to block the huge wolf's sharp teeth. Xian took this opportunity to duck and sprint away, while Tuabayan's expression changed, and he shouted, Protect His Majesty! Protect that Han person! Just then, Xian had narrowly missed having his head bitten off by that huge wolf, and it was actually Murongchang who saved him in the end. The two of them had both acted unexpectedly. The Imperial Guards that rushed up had already been bowled over by the rotten wolf that pounced forward, and the space was narrow and not suitable for firing arrows in. Murongchang shouted, Don't mind him. First watch over His Majesty. Xian shouted, No way. The yin-yang mirror is still on me. Tuabayan dashed over in pursuit, but he hadn't expected that huge wolf to be so quick. Just as the Imperial Guards caught up, they were once again left in the dust, and in this life and death moment, Xian called upon hidden strength that he didn't know he had, ducking and dodging constantly. Murongchang and Tuabayan finally managed to encircle them. Seeing that if he didn't run now, he would be caught again, Fu Jian finally roared angrily, Go! Xian was already secured in a circle of Imperial Guards, still in great shock as he watched Fu Jian, and right after, that huge wolf arched its body. Tuabayan glanced over at it, realizing things were not going well. He then trod upon the shields of the Imperial Guards as he and Murongchang leapt into the air towards Xian, launching their rescue attempt. As expected, that huge wolf leapt off the ground, flying a whole 10 zhang away, over the heads of the Imperial Guards as it pounced at Xian. It opened its mouth, but just as it was about to snatch Xian away in its jaws, Murongchang tossed out his long sword in midair. It pierced through Fu Jian's shoulder as he rode on the back of that wolf, causing him to fall off. Tuabayan, his long halberd in hand, rushed in from the side. With a thrust, he blocked the huge wolf's head, stabbing the point into its collar, but the huge wolf bit down hard on Tuabayan's arm, ripping off half of his left arm. But Tuabayan didn't even let out a shout, nor did he feel pain. He lifted his right fist, and with a shocking amount of strength, he slammed it forcefully onto that wolf's head. That blow had the wolf rolling around on the ground, before it swiftly rose, leaving behind Fujian as it leapt into the air again, crashing through the ranks of the Imperial Guards as it fled. "Protect Xie and Darren." Tuabayan pressed down on the part where his arm had broken off, and he said, "We have to be careful, it might return." Xie knew that because he held the yin-yang mirror, he had already become the enemy's main target, and he immediately said, "I need to find a place to hide." "Your Majesty." Tuabayan walked over quickly. The armor at Fujian's shoulder had been pierced through, and he sat up with great difficulty, the wound covered with black blood. "Chang'er," Fujian breathed. "Yan'er." "Your Majesty." Tuabayan said anxiously, but just as he was about to help Fujian to his feet, he suddenly stopped in his movements. The shining blade of the Emperor's sword stabbed through Tuabayan's chest, protruding out of his back. Tuabayan's entire body slumped onto Fujian as he stared mutely at him. His mouth was filled with blood, and he could no longer speak. That stab had pierced right through his heart, causing the last bit of light in his eyes to slowly dim and vanish, turning into nothingness as his pupils gradually expanded. Bright blood red filled Fujian's eyes, and he tightly clutched the Emperor's sword in his hand as he said darkly, "Who else wants to use their body to test Zhen's Emperor's sword?" The Imperial Guards slowly backed away. Xian muttered, "Fujian, do you know what you are doing?" Fujian said darkly, "For the children that I raised to betray me just like this, their lives were granted to them by me, so naturally I should be the one to take them away." The Imperial Guards cleared out an empty space, and in the middle were Fujian, emitting resentment non-stop as he stood there. Kneeling in front of him was Tuabayan, whose heart had been pierced through by the Emperor's sword. Murongchang slowly walked over, stopping 10 paces away and staring fixedly at Tuabayan, before raising his gaze to Fujian. No matter what, he couldn't believe that Tuabayan would meet such an end. Of all the people in the Great Qin, Murongchang said, "Tuabayan was the one most loyal to you." "Your Majesty, you're insane." Fujian pulled out the Emperor's sword, turning and walking towards Murongchang, who said, "Capture him, make His Majesty wake up." The Imperial Guards all shouted loudly as they rushed up. Fujian swept the Emperor's sword in an arc, and resentment suffused the air, but there were more and more troops, and finally, after waves upon waves, they managed to capture him. Countless ropes and steel nets flew over, pinning him to the ground. In this realm, Zhen is the one true ruler. Fujian roared wildly. The mirror world, the ruins of Chang'an. That thundering roar echoed across the horizon, and Chen Xing's eyes immediately widened. Right now. Xiang Shu, however, didn't wait for him to ponder over it. He activated the heart lamp, and Chen Xing instantly pushed the power of his hunpo to its limits as he ignited them. Wang Zi let out a despairing howl. His last supporting troops hadn't come, and all his resentment had been dissipated, revealing his hunpo glowing with a red light. Wang Zi let out a sharp shriek, turning and flying into the air. However, he then realized that there was nowhere he could escape to, because the only exit, the inside of the mirror, was on Chen Xing. Wang Zi yelled, "This can't be my fate dash!" Right after, he turned and rushed forward, a pair of claws growing out of his soul as he brought them down hard at Chen Xing. But Chen Xing lifted a hand, and the light in his hand flashed, revealing the Luohun bell. Wang Zi's blood-red eyes widened that second, realizing what was going to happen next. Chen Xing put all of his mana into the Luohun bell, and the bronze body of the bell turned a bright gold, its light diffusing in all directions. Dang! The Luohun bell sounded, and though Wang Zi tried ferociously to escape higher, his hunpo were forcefully dragged back by the power of the Luohun bell, turning into ribbons of light that were connected to the bell. "I'm not ready!" Wang Zi's voice howled. Chen Xing's mana was already almost all gone, and he exerted all of his effort in controlling the Luohun bell as he and Wang Zi began to struggle. Xiang Shu yelled, "Hold out! The power of his hunpo is too strong," Chen Xing roared. "Wang Zi! It's over!" Under the power of the Luohun bell, Wang Zi, who was nothing but pure hunpo at this point, began to warp and deform. The power of his hun flowed like water as it was tugged into the Luohun bell, which let out an earth-shaking chime. But in this instant, in Wang Zi's chest, a drop of dark red, gem-like blood flashed. In an instant, Chen Xing's vision went black, and he once again saw the scenery of Huanmo Palace. That huge heart let off a strong glow as it entered the earth veins, and the earth veins were immediately polluted into a patch of blood red. "Mortal," a voice resounded by Chen Xing's ear. "You're actually able to get to this point?" The drop of blood shattered, diffusing through Wang Zi's hunpo as they were being dragged into the Luohun bell, buying him one last moment of time. "Yes," Chen Xing raised his eyebrows as he responded. "You won't be able to save your subordinate, Chu." The Luohun bell pulled away Wang Zi's earth hun, before Chen Xing flicked his wrist again. Dang! With the second chime, Wang Zi's ghostly hun left his body, and without these two hun, he had had no more strength to struggle, falling limp. He already had no way to prevent the power of the Luohun bell and the heart lamp from taking effect. But just at that moment, a speck of red light began to glow in Feng Qianzhen's body, and another speck appeared dimly in Xiao Shan's heart, flickering in and out of existence. "You've spoken too soon," Chu's voice resounded. "Let's see if it's your heart lamp that illuminates the world, or if it'll be my devil blood that ensnares the humans' hearts." Wang Zi's second hun had yet to fully detach, but Xiang Shu had already changed positions, picking up Chen Xing in his embrace as he turned, flipped, and leapt down the stairs. Right after, Feng Qianzhen and Xiao Shan, still enveloped in resentment, charged in from the two sides. Sen Luo Wangxiang and Kangsheng Yuli slashed at the same time, completely pulverizing Taishu Palace. With the boom, it was as if the windstorm rose again. Wang Zi, still howling, turned into a vague shadow of his former self as he crawled along the ground. Chen Xing, who was still being hugged by Xiang Shu, clambered out of the ruins. He had been interrupted in the middle of casting his magic, and Chen Xing couldn't muster up a breath as he leaned up against the side of a pillar. "Just a little more," Chen Xing said, "just." But Feng Qianzhen had already rushed up first, his eyes glowing with a blood-red light as his blade slashed down onto Xiang Shu. Xiang Shu lifted the Akala blade horizontally, and with an angry roar, he blocked Feng Qianzhen's slash. "To activate your artifacts," Chu's voice resounded, "you all used resentment to replace the spiritual qi of the heavens and earth." Feng Qianzhen and Xiao Shan leapt forward at the same time, their bodies wrapped in resentment as they turned into swift shadows that wildly attacked Xiang Shu like a fierce storm. Xiang Shu had to protect Chen Xing behind him, while defeating the exorcist companions that had been taken over by the devil god's blood, and for a while he was laboring strenuously. "But you didn't know, those who attempt to forcefully control the powers of darkness, will always have the resentment turn on them eventually. This king told you a long time ago that there will come a day where everyone who trusted you would betray you. Exorcise." Chen Xing's mouth was filled with blood as he pushed off the ground laboriously, lifting a hand. His palm glowed with one last bit of light, and he pushed it towards Xiao Shan. With a wild roar, Xiao Shan swung Kangsheng Yuli. Xiang Shu was being occupied by Feng Qianzhen, but he turned, ignoring Feng Qianzhen, to save him. He leapt to Chen Xing, trying to gather him up in his arms, but Xiao Shan's claw had already reached Chen Xing's chest. "Die," Chu's voice spoke. "The era of the exorcists has ended. It's not yet time," another youth's voice suddenly spoke. "Accept it, God of weapons." Xiao Shan's claw strike swept towards Chen Xing's chest, but just as it was about to split him, with a light ding, the claw of Kangsheng Yuli was blocked by the artifact that Chen Xing had placed at his chest. His outer robe split apart, and the yin-yang mirror that he had in it cracked. With numerous snaps, the cracks grew, and the mirror's face split into pieces. The present, the plains of Yug. Everyone gathered up, eyeing Fu Jian, who had been tied down securely in the middle. The soldiers held rags in their hands, but none of them dared to stuff them into Fu Jian's mouth. An assistant general looked around, but he couldn't find a single person who dared to block up Fu Jian's mouth. Murongchang was a subordinate, Shi Moken was on the same level as him, King Onobayashi was an ally, but he couldn't be counted as an enemy. The only person with the power to stuff a rag into Fu Jian's mouth was Xiang Shu, but he wasn't here. "I'll do it, ba," Xian said to the others. "In our great Jin, things that others don't want to do are all done by me, Xianxi." Xian didn't care one whit if he was the heavenly king or not, he immediately blocked Fu Jian's mouth up. On the plains of the Huai River, the 300,000 drought fiends had already been eliminated, and the danger had finally passed. Now, all they were waiting for was news of how the group in the mirror, Chen Xing and the rest, had fared. Murongchang spoke. "Now what? Are you taking him away?" Originally, they intended to hand Fu Jian over to Tuabayan, who would bring him to Shao County or Luoyang to put him under house arrest, but Tuabayan was now dead. Xian could only say, "Let's go according to the original plan? It's not suitable for us to arrest him, there must be someone from your country who goes along with him." "Shattering," Murongchang murmured. Xian immediately sensed that something was wrong. He lowered his head to look at his own chest, pulling out the yin-yang mirror, only to see cracks propagating rapidly on the surface of the mirror. Everyone backed up. Xian grew nervous. Holding the mirror in his hand wouldn't do, but putting it on the ground wouldn't do either. Murongchang said, "Do you want to find a place to hide?" With the cracking of the mirror, the images inside also began to shatter, before with a pang, the entire surface shattered. Xian let out a loud shout. Shi Moken was the first to react, shouting, "Be careful! Step back!" In the mirror, the resentment that had been sucked away from Wang Zi suddenly exploded. Xian made an instant decision and turned the face of the mirror towards the sky, and this last minute, crucial decision saved the lives of everyone present. With the destruction of the mirror, the resentment spewed out in all directions from the surface of the yin-yang mirror as a storm of black fire burst out. The first thing that rushed out of the mirror was a streak of a blood-red soul, followed by Feng Qianjun and Xiao Shan's shadows, before finally it was Xiang Shu hugging Chen Xing. The resentment exploded out, almost flattening the plains around for a whole li. As the black fog dissipated, Chu's hideous laughter could be heard from within. Just as Feng Qianjun landed, he picked up Fu Jian, and together with Xiao Shan they turned into black flames that flew towards the horizon. Xiang Shu hugged an unconscious Chen Xing as they stood in the middle of the plains. Resentment slowly dissipated, creeping over the ground, and the plants withered as the ground turned pitch black. Xian asked, "Martial God?" Xiang Shu took in his surroundings, covered in blood. He breathed for a moment, looking at Chen Xing in his embrace. "Fuck," Xiang Shu said. End chapter.